All right, so I just want to quickly showcase the Rift Valley in China in Pinglu. There's Shanxi. I'm not sure I'm saying that right, but I've been sort of talking about how these green lines here are kind of like these measurement lines that would have picked up the potential of measuring tectonics. And so from here, this is one of the observatory sites that I posit that, these lines have to get cleaned up, but basically it comes into this spot somewhere. And there's a lot going on in here that is probably its own separate reason for having a little video. But this is the whole theory. There's a green line that separates a bunch of these sites, and I think these are all coinciding with specifically and very much corresponding with all these rifts, continental rifts, plate tectonics, different pieces of how the earth would move and shake and vibrate and roll around. So this red line, coincidentally, excuse me, is the magnetic north-south on the backside of us, so 12,235 miles, running from magnetic north all the way down through China, through this area here, and then basically running off down in this area down here. So off the coast of Australia, I have some theories as far as how much continental shelf used to exist all around everywhere, and I'm not going to necessarily speculate beyond the fact that what we are finding, what I am finding, and trying to get confirmed with others that can independently look at this stuff and try to make it something more concretely demonstrable. I think in science is where I want to head with it. I don't necessarily just want this to be theory land, but the bigger theory is, how do you put a dodecahedron on top of the entirety of the Earth? And it's one of these things where it matches up so absolutely perfect, and then where these remainders or these stretcher bars that come off of so for instance, imagine, let's do I will pull up all of the, like a lime green dodecahedron. So I put these face skins on, if you will, with this one doing double duty of two of them. You can see the underlying green underneath that. But basically there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the pie pieces, or the wedges surrounding that dodecahedron face, and they're all of equilateral triangle shapes, 3,965 miles, 3,965 miles. And then each dodecahedron face is made up with one sliver, and that sliver, in this case, for this one, cuts through the equator, and converges down here, the sort of base of the Ring of Fire, where new land-shaping volcanic events are happening. So all of these measurement things, I haven't dialed that in, but I kind of theorize points C, D, and then S, T, U, V are all connected to measuring that sense of land growth. And then also, as it relates to all these other lines, they kind of come in on LM, NO, and then those are up in the Bering Straits. So again, Aleutian Islands, where you have all of these volcanic events in this Ring of Fire, it's definitely something that, okay, you start to think, well, that's a few of those green lines, pretty much, the bulk of them, right? And there's a few over there, but let's look at these, right? And over here, again, they're forming perfect isosceles triangles off the Cape of Western Africa, and these are still just the remainders of all of these 12 faces of the dodecahedrons, creating, what variances I have of 728 to 730 miles now, as far as these green lines. And, this one in here is the rift, the Associan, I'm not sure I'm saying that right, but the Associan rift that creates also an isosceles triangle with points K and J. And then that was the other part. One of the videos I did was all about the East African rift, as we know, is happening, and the plates in the small end plate up here, and like, so you have these measurements all happening there. Okay. You know, this one here, really the B point is all I have is that measurement. Yes, the end of the Ouroboros, if you will, the tail, the overlap of the dodecahedron faces of equilateral triangles, all sort of landing, you know, is right there. You know, I don't know if that has any relationship or not, so I just kind of say that loosely. But this, we know there's some rifting down here in Antarctica. I don't know specifically how A and B relate to that, so I'm not going to go out on the stretch on A and B. But what I just discovered, we were looking at like Lake Baikal yesterday. Actually, that was a conversation that came up, and so the ways in which maybe there is some sort of measurement across the continent there would be between E and W, potentially. You know, I don't know if that's a thing or not. So it's, again, just, it's there. It potentially could be measured that way. But then, you know, we get into W, and that's where, as we get down into, you know, what we were just looking at on the maps. Oops, I went a little too far. But if we're looking at right in here, the trench right up in here in China, so, you know, what the internet is not pulling up all too fast for me right now, but is really tight there, is just yet another case. You know, and there is that magnetic north-south line. But just another case of being able to measure changes in land and shifts potentially through these measurements. Now, granted, the rift runs all the way like that. You know, is it that they're looking to see if it's moving laterally? Is it something that potentially is just coincidentally lining up? I accept that too. You know, maybe the measure that you'd want to see is something, you know, perpendicular to W as well. I don't know. And, you know, maybe it exists, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's, you know, in relationship to other things, and that's where I'm going to be looking to others to help sort of fill in the gaps of plausibility on that theory. But, you know, I'm going to put where I think I see some correlations and then let that science play out. Because I think that's the healthiest approach to take something this massive. So if it is the case, and that's the thing that I'm seeing increasingly as like a correlating pattern, cool. If it's not, then we haven't wasted time on it, doubling down on ego, but rather just trying to explore a concept. So that's where I'm at. I hope everybody's well. Peace.